Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Sarcastic Wrestling Mark video, this time looking at the so-called world's largest athlete, The Big Show. Of course, Big Show was well known in the WWE for being an absolute giant of the sport, both figuratively and literally. And it's not an easy thing to be a giant in a world full of giants, yet Show would stand head and shoulders above the rest. Until of course the great Khali showed up. I'm sure that never caused any problems. If you've got elite ball knowledge when it comes to the world of wrestling, you might be aware that the WWE and other wrestling companies have historically had a habit of rounding up the height of different wrestlers, sometimes by half an inch, sometimes by a full 4 inches. That's even bigger than you might be mistaken in thinking that this rounding up rule doesn't apply to the larger wrestlers. I mean, why round up somebody who's already close to or over 7 foot tall? Well, the problem is with inflating the shorter wrestlers' heights, you've also got to inflate the taller guys, or the whole system falls apart. In the case of the Big Show, he has been billed at both 7'2" and 7 foot flat throughout his career. So which is it? One of the most eye-opening aspects of this conversation is any of the Big Show's confrontations with basketball legend Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq is apparently 7'1" according to his NBA listings. However, a journalist once noted that at the NBA draft camp, a lot of basketball players were found to measure shorter than they were supposed to be. Shaq, however, was apparently measured at just over 7 foot tall. However, Shaq himself has claimed, quote, "I'm 6'11", I just play like I was 7'3". I'm 6'11 3/4, I'm telling you. Okay, so going off that, we can say that Shaq was around the 6'11" or 7 foot range. Let's see how he looks when standing next to the Big Show. So this completely throws the idea of Big Show being 7'2" out of the window. Show himself has claimed to have always been a little over 7 foot tall. But if Shaq is being honest about his height and he isn't hiding 3 inches, which I very much doubt he is, then Big Show has got to be a little shorter than 7 foot tall. Let's have a look at when they actually ran into each other at the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania 32. It should be noted here that Shaq does seem to have a slight footwear advantage over the Big Show in his basketball shoes. But when the two met on Monday Night Raw on July 27th, 2009, the height difference was quite similar. We can say from these 3 examples that the Big Show is definitely shorter than Shaq, maybe by about 2 inches. However, here's an interesting twist. When standing near The Undertaker earlier in his career, Big Show looks comfortably taller than Taker, who was probably around or just under 6'8". Later on, however, it seems like the Big Show is closer in height to the Dead Man. What does this mean? Well, you might not know this, but not only are guys that height more prone to shrinkage due to the effects of gravity to a greater degree than us mere mortals down here are throughout the day, but they are also more prone to losing more height throughout the course of their life. If you combine that with a lifestyle of extreme heavy weightlifting and wrestling, its effects of wear and tear on the back, it starts to paint what is probably a more accurate picture. However tall the Big Show is, he's probably not as tall as he was back when he was the Giant in WCW. Big Show has been prone to the plight of all men, shrinkage. So what does this say about the Giant's height now? At this point, I'm willing to go to the expert on this one. Let's have a look at what Rob Paul from Celeb Heights has to say about the Big Show's height. Rob Paul has the Big Show at a towering 7 foot and a 1/4 inch at his peak, but these days he stands around 6'10" and is possibly getting even shorter than that. Wow, looking small there, bro. I think this is a pretty reasonable take on Show's height. People don't realise how physically demanding the wrestling life can be, and the impact that it can have on things like a person's spine. Not to mention, I just asked ChatGPT about the effects of lifelong obesity on height. That's not to say the Big Show wasn't an athlete, but over the years he's definitely been quite a large man with regards to body fat. This combination of factors probably explains why he's been more prone to height loss than somebody like Shaq, who, whilst also an impressive athlete and large man, was in a sport that doesn't specifically mess up your spine quite as much as wrestling does. And Shaq has always kept in better condition than the Big Show. No hate, just facts. So the Big Show in his peak height was around 7 foot, and these days he's 6'10" and possibly shorter. There's a long-winded video delving into a topic that none of you probably actually care about, but I hope you find it somewhat interesting. If you liked this video and want to see more like it, remember to like the video and subscribe. It helps me keep the lights on. I've been the Sarcastic Wrestling Mark, and I'll see you in the next one.